The chill of the evening seeped into Elian's bones as he stepped out from the dim glow of the workshop, the city's heartbeat steady with the ticking of countless clocks. Yet, beneath the familiar rhythm, a dissonance hummed, a fracture in the flow of time that only he seemed to perceive. His sharp green eyes flicked toward the city square, where the prominent clock loomed, its face marred by a thin, jagged crack that pulsed faintly with an otherworldly light. Drawn by an inexplicable force, Elian moved toward the cracked clock, the cobblestones slick beneath his worn boots. The air thickened, the usual chorus of ticking blurred into a singular, haunting chime that echoed endlessly. Suddenly, the world shifted. The lamplights flickered, shadows danced unnaturally, and the faces of passers-by froze mid-step, caught in an unyielding moment. Without warning, Elian found himself back at the beginning of the same evening. The cobblestones beneath his feet were cold and wet with the mist of early night. The distant toll of the clock tower struck again once, twice, thrice, and the city seemed to hold its breath. Confusion tightened around his chest as he realized the cruel truth. He was trapped in a time loop. At first, Elian tried to run, to shout, to break the cycle. But each attempt ended the same way, back to that chilling moment before the tragedy that had claimed his family. The memory was a knife twisting deeper with each repetition. He saw his parents' faces, their smiles fading into screams as the accident unfolded, time folding and snapping like a brittle gear. His mind reeled with a tempest of emotions: dread, guilt, helplessness. The curse was no longer an abstract threat, but a living nightmare that clawed at the edges of his sanity. Each repetition revealed subtle differences, faint whispers of possibility and change, but the core remained unyielding. The broken clock was not merely a machine. It was a manifestation of fate's fractured heart. Amidst the relentless loop, a voice pierced the fog, a steady, familiar presence. Mara. Her auburn hair glinted in the muted light, and her brown eyes burned with fierce determination. She reached for him, her hands warm against his cold skin. Elian, she urged, listen to me. You're not alone in this. We can break it together. Her words were a lifeline. Grasping for hope, Elian followed her through the shifting streets, their footsteps echoing in the silence of repeated time. Mira's knowledge of the city's hidden paths became their guide, weaving through alleys and forgotten corridors as the loop threatened to close around them once more. Together, they reached the base of the cracked clock tower. Elian's fingers traced the jagged fissure, feeling the tremor of broken gears humming beneath the stone. The ghostly light pulsed stronger, synchronized with the beat of his own heart. Memories surged, fragments of his parents' laughter, the warmth of their embrace, the shattering moment when time betrayed them. With Mira's steady hand supporting his, Elian began to understand. The loop was not merely a trap. It was a warning, a call to mend what was broken. The curse thrived on despair and resignation, but within the fracture lay a chance to rewrite the gears of fate. Hours passed as they worked, the city's timeless pulse slowly reasserting itself. The looping chimes softened, the shadows receded, and the faces of passers-by returned to their natural flow. Exhausted, Elian sank against the cold stone wall of the workshop, Mira's presence a comforting anchor. We did it, she whispered, though the tremor in her voice betrayed the fragility of their victory. Elian nodded, eyes closed, the weight of what he'd endured settling over him. The curse was not broken yet, but the loop had shown him the cost of failure and the strength found in hope and friendship. As the first light of dawn crept through the narrow windows, Elian vowed silently to face the broken gears of time with renewed courage. The city's fate was entwined with his own, and the path ahead, though uncertain, was his to shape. But even as relief washed over him, a lingering question gnawed at the edges of his mind. How many more loops awaited? And what sacrifices would they demand before the curse was truly undone? The ticking of the clocks resumed its steady rhythm, but within Elian's heart, a new resolve beat louder, a promise to face the darkness, to mend what was broken. and to fight for a future where time's cruel loops could finally be broken. The workshop was thick with the scent of oil and aged wood, the steady tick-tock of countless clocks creating a rhythmic heartbeat that pulsed through the air. Elian Marrow crouched over a delicate gear assembly, fingers nimble despite the grime and sweat that stained them. Beside him, Master Calder's aged hands moved with practiced grace, guiding each component into place with a precision born of decades. Their voices were low, blending into the chorus of ticking timepieces. "The gears are more fragile than I anticipated," Calder murmured, eyes narrowed beneath heavy brows. "But the cracks run deeper than mere mechanics. The curse, it's seeping into the very essence of these clocks." Elian nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "We have to stop it before the city fractures completely." Calder's gaze softened, though shadows lingered behind his silver eyes. "You carry a weight far beyond your years, Elian, but you are not alone." Outside, the city wore its usual cloak of twilight, lanterns flickering like fireflies caught in perpetual dusk. Mira Voss moved swiftly through the maze of narrow alleys, her auburn hair tucked beneath a worn hood. Every step was measured, her keen brown eyes scanning faces etched with worry and whispers. The unraveling of time was no secret to those who lived in the city's lower districts. They felt it in the stuttering flow of their days and the strange repetitions that haunted their nights. Mira paused before a shuttered door, knocking 3 times in quick succession. A slit opened, revealing a pair of wary eyes. "The clocks are breaking," she whispered urgently, "and the factions they recircling like vultures." Inside, voices murmured of power grabs and secret pacts, of alliances forged in shadows. Mira gathered what she could, the weight of the city's fate pressing heavier with each rumor. Later, Elian met Joran by a bustling street vendor's stall, the market alive with the clatter of carts and murmurs of hurried deals. Joran, with his grizzled beard and darting eyes, leaned close, his voice low and gravelly. "They were not just waiting for the clocks to fail," he said. "They want to control what happens when they do. Political factions, nobles, and merchants, they all see opportunity in chaos." Elian's heart pounded. The threat was no longer just the curse, it was the human hunger for power magnified by the city's unraveling. "What can we do?" Elian asked, desperation threading his voice. Joran shrugged. "Keep your friends close, and your enemies closer." As night deepened, Elian found himself on a rooftop overlooking the cityscape. The fractured ticking of distant clocks echoed beneath a starless sky, each broken beat a reminder of the fragile balance at stake. Yet, beside the weight of impending chaos, there was a spark born from the loyalty of Mira, the wisdom of Calder, and the unexpected aid of Joran. Together, they formed a fragile shield against the shadows gathering to consume their world. Elian's grip tightened on the cold iron railing. "We will not let the city fall," he vowed into the night. "Not while there is time left to fight." But as the wind carried the echoes of broken gears and whispered betrayals, a question lingered in the air. Could their fragile alliance withstand the storm to come? The city teetered on the edge, and Elian knew the next moves would decide not just his fate, but the fate of all who lived within the ticking walls. With a final glance at the horizon, Elian turned toward the shadows below, ready to face whatever darkness awaited. "You must listen carefully," Master Calder said the next morning, his voice steady but grave. They sat around a worn table cluttered with fragments of clockwork, the air heavy with anticipation. "These political factions are not idle. They seek to exploit the fractures in time to bend fate to their will. If they succeed, the city will fall not because of the curse alone, but because of greed and deceit." Mira leaned forward, eyes sharp. "We need allies, those who still believe in the city's future, not just their own gain." Elian nodded, the burden of leadership settling heavily on his shoulders. "Then we must reach out, find those who can stand with us. The city's fate depends on it." The workshop filled with a quiet resolve, the ticking clocks marking moments that might never come again. Outside, the city stirred, caught between the pull of time's cruel unraveling and the flickering hope of those brave enough to fight for its heart. And in that fragile balance, Elian found a new strength, a promise forged not by gears or springs, but by trust, friendship, and unwavering determination. The clock was ticking, the shadows were gathering, and the fight for the city's soul had only just begun. The days that followed were a whirlwind of whispered meetings and secret exchanges. Mira moved like a shadow, her network of contacts weaving through the city's veins. She brought back news of uneasy alliances and brewing tensions, each report sharpening Elian's understanding of the stakes. The factions are fracturing, she confided one evening, her voice barely above a whisper in the dim light of the workshop. Some want to control the clocks outright, others seek to destroy them to reset the city's order. Elian's fingers trembled slightly as he adjusted a tiny gear, the weight of their task pressing down. We can't let either happen. Master Calder's eyes gleamed with quiet approval. Your resolve grows stronger. Remember, Elian, fate is not a chain but a tapestry. Each thread we mend strengthens the whole. But even as they worked, the city's heartbeat faltered. Time glitches sent ripples through the streets, memories blurred, moments flickered and repeated like broken music. Citizens whispered of strange sightings, shadows flickering at the edge of vision, clocks that ticked backwards, and fleeting glimpses of futures yet to come. One night, as Elian and Mira returned from a covert meeting, the air around them grew thick with tension. From the darkness emerged Jorin, his usually jovial face etched with concern. They're replanning something, he warned. A move to seize the Grand Clock Tower. If they control it, they control time itself. Elian's breath caught. The clock tower was the city's heart, the nexus of all temporal flow. Losing it would mean losing everything. We have to stop them, Mira said fiercely, eyes blazing with determination. Elian nodded, the path ahead clear despite the shadows looming. Then we prepare, together. The alliance was fragile, the threats many, but in the quiet moments between the chaos, a single truth shone bright. No matter how broken the gears, time could still be mended by those who dared to fight for it. And so, beneath the ticking skies of the city, Elian and his allies steeled themselves for the coming storm, ready to face the darkness that sought to unravel all they held dear. The biting chill of early morning seeped through the cracked windows of the workshop as Elian Marrow leaned closer to the heart of the cracked clock. His slender fingers, stained with oil and dust, traced the jagged fissures running along the brass casing. The clock's steady ticking faltered, uneven and strained, like a faltering heartbeat. It was a sound that had haunted Elian for days, now a silent alarm that something was unraveling beyond the mere mechanics. He carefully extracted a broken gear, its teeth worn and misshapen beyond normal wear. As he held it, a sudden wave of images cascaded through his mind, fragmented memories of a day long past, shrouded in smoke and sorrow. The laughter of a child, a sharp cry, the screech of metal against stone, then silence. The accident that had claimed his family, the very event that had orphaned him, was somehow tied to this clock. The realization struck him with the force of a hammer blow. The cracking clock wasn't just a failing mechanism. It was a living thread woven into his own fate. Elian, a voice called softly, pulling him from the vision. Mira Voss stood at the workshop door, her sharp eyes scanning the room with a mixture of concern and urgency. The city's restless tonight. The loops are growing longer, and the rumors are spreading. We need to move carefully. He nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. I know, but this clock, it's tied to my family. I can feel it. If I don't fix it, everything we know could unravel. Mira stepped inside, brushing a stray lock of auburn hair behind her ear. Then we'll face it together. You're not alone in this. Their footsteps echoed as they slipped through the labyrinthine alleys of the city, the distant chimes of clocks ringing out unevenly, signaling the growing instability. Mira's knowledge of the city's hidden paths was invaluable, steering them clear of pockets where time folded erratically, trapping the unwary in loops of despair. As they paused beside a crumbling wall, Mira's voice dropped to a whisper. People are starting to vanish or reappear with no memory of where they've been. The factions are stirring, two each wanting control over the chaos. Elian clenched his fists, the weight of responsibility settling heavier on his shoulders. The balance is tipping. If the clocks fail, so does the city. Later, back in the sanctuary of the workshop, Master Calder awaited them, seated before an ancient tome whose pages seemed to shimmer with a life of their own. His silver hair caught the flickering candlelight as he spoke with measured gravity. "Fate is a delicate tapestry," he said, voice thick with age and wisdom. "Each clock you mend weaves a thread back into that fabric. But beware, Elian, for some threads are frayed by grief and pain, tangled beyond easy repair." Elian met his mentor's gaze, searching for guidance. Is it possible to change what has already been set? Calder sighed, eyes distant. That is the eternal question. Free will dances precariously on the edge of destiny's design. But remember, courage can illuminate even the darkest of paths. The words settled deep within Elian's heart as he retreated to the rooftop at twilight. The city stretched before him, a sea of flickering lights and shadowed rooftops, the cracked clock tower pulsing faintly with unstable energy. Mist curled around the spires, blurring the boundary between past and present, fate and choice. He closed his eyes, the voices of the clocks whispering ancient secrets in his ears. The weight of his family's loss intertwined with the city's fate, challenging him to choose, accept the threads as they were woven, or dare to reweave the tapestry of time itself. A cold wind stirred, carrying with it the faint scent of oil, and old wood the scent of clocks and memories, and a future yet unwritten. Elian's hand brushed the pendant at his neck, a keepsake from his mother, and he whispered to the night, "I will not let the past shackle us. The threads of destiny are mine to mend." The city held its breath, caught between the steady tick and the fractured talk, as Elian stepped forward into the unknown. The workshop was alive with the soft, insistent ticking of countless clocks. Each tick was a heartbeat, each talk a breath of time itself. Elian worked meticulously, dismantling and repairing the intricate mechanisms with a surgeon's precision. The broken gear he had removed earlier lay on the workbench beside him, a stark reminder of the fragility of the city's temporal web. His mind wandered back to the visions, the fragmented memories of his family's last moments. The smoke, the shattered glass, the sudden wrenching pain of loss. He had always felt the clocks were more than machines. Now he knew they were vessels of fate, and the cracked clock held his past in its trembling gears. Elian Marrow's voice interrupted his reverie. "There's news. The city's leaders are meeting tonight. They read desperate for answers, but none have come." He looked up, eyes meeting hers. "Then we must find the answers ourselves. The clock is failing, and with it, the lives it governs." Mira nodded, her expression resolute. "We'll face this, one gear at a time." Together they pored over maps and sketches in the dim candlelight, plotting their next steps. Each decision felt weighted with the lives tangled in the web of time, friends, strangers, the city itself. Master Calder joined them, his presence a steady anchor amid the swirling uncertainty. "Remember, Elian, the past shapes us, but it does not bind us. The future is a thread yet to be woven." Elian absorbed the words, the hope within them a fragile ember in the growing darkness. He knew the road ahead would be perilous, filled with time loops and broken promises. But the connection to his family's tragedy gave him a clarity and purpose that no fear could quell. Outside, the city's clocks chimed irregularly, their echoes weaving through the alleys and rooftops. The dance of fate and free will had begun anew, and Elian stood at its center, ready to challenge the broken gears and reclaim the threads of destiny. The night deepened, wrapping the city in a velvet cloak studded with distant stars. Elian found himself drawn once more to the rooftop, the cracked clock tower looming like a sentinel against the dark sky. The air was thick with the scent of rain and old metal, and the faint hum of unstable energy vibrated through the stones beneath his feet. He reached out, fingers brushing the cool surface of the tower's face. The cracks pulsed softly, as if alive, whispering secrets just beyond the edge of understanding. The visions, the sorrow, the hope, the fear mingled within him, tempest of emotion that threatened to overwhelm. What will you choose, Elian? A voice echoed in his mind, soft and insistent, to accept the fate set before you, or to forge a new path. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply. The city's heartbeat synchronized with his own, a shared rhythm that spoke of resilience and renewal. I choose to fight, he whispered, to mend what is broken and to weave a future of my own making. The first drops of rain began to fall, shimmering like liquid silver in the pale moonlight. Elian's resolve hardened, a beacon against the encroaching shadows. The threads of destiny were tangled, yes, but not yet beyond repair. With a final glance at the trembling clock tower, he turned toward the path that awaited him, a journey through time's fractured corridors, toward a destiny still unwritten. As dawn approached, the city stirred with tentative hope. Somewhere the ticking steadied, the broken gears beginning to align once more. Elian's heart beat in time, with the returning rhythm a promise that even the deepest wounds could heal, and that the future belonged to those brave enough to shape it. But the journey was far from over. In the shadows, forces stirred, and the delicate balance of fate hung by a thread. Elian knew that as long as the clocks ticked, the struggle for destiny would continue. Yet as the first light of morning painted the sky in hues of gold and rose, one truth remained clear: the threads of destiny were his to weave, and he would not let them unravel. The city awaited, and so did time itself. The city of Ethernal had never felt so fragile. The steady pulse of countless clocks once wove a seamless tapestry of time, each tick a thread in the fabric of reality. But now, as the sun dipped behind the jagged skyline, shadows seemed to ripple unnaturally, and the rhythm of the city faltered. Elian Marrow stood at the edge of the bustling market square, his sharp green eyes scanning the crowd, alert for the first sign of the chaos he had feared. A sudden gasp rippled through the crowd. A man, mid-exchange of coins and goods, flickered like a candle's flame caught by a sudden draft. His form blurred, distorted, and then vanished altogether, leaving behind only a startled merchant and a purse swinging on the empty air. Murmurs swelled into panicked whispers. Did you see that? Where did he go? Is this happening elsewhere? Elian clenched his fists, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The cracked clock at the city square's heart, its broken gears, pulsing erratically, was no longer a distant threat, but a tangible wound in the city's flesh. Each fractured gear sent ripples through time's delicate currents, warping moments, twisting memories, and unraveling the lives tethered to their clocks. He turned and pushed through the throng, seeking Mira. She had promised to meet him near the old fountain, but the chaotic murmurs and the flickering lamplight made the familiar streets feel alien. His footsteps echoed strangely, overlapping with faint repeats as if time itself stumbled. Meanwhile, Mira darted through the twisting alleys of the city's lower districts, her auburn hair a striking flare against the growing dusk. Her breath came in sharp bursts, visible in the cool air, as she gripped her younger brother's small hand tightly. The strange temporal anomalies had begun to seep into the neighborhoods she called home, and the dangers were no longer theoretical. "Stay close," Mira whispered, her voice steady despite the rising panic. Around them, echoes of footsteps repeated in unsettling loops, and faint whispers like voices trapped between moments drifted through the narrow passageways. Her sharp brown eyes scanned every shadow, every flicker of movement. Her family was caught in the middle of this unraveling reality, and she would protect them at any cost. But even her fierce loyalty and streetwise cunning were tested by the growing instability. Time bent unpredictably, and the city's familiar landmarks twisted into traps of repetition and confusion. Back atop a weathered rooftop, Elian watched the city's chaos unfold beneath him. The flickering street lamps, the broken clocks sputtering erratic ticks, the crowds shifting uncertainly like a tide caught in a storm, all painted a grim tableau. The shadows stretched and twisted, casting long, distorted shapes that seemed to reach out like fingers trying to grasp the last threads of order. His heart pounded with dread, but also with a stubborn hope. The curse that gripped Ethernal was not invincible. Somewhere within the shattered gears, within the labyrinth of broken time, lay the key to restoration. But the path was perilous, littered with dangers both seen and unseen. Within the city's political underbelly, tension simmered to a boil. In the dim light of a secluded backroom, leaders of the city's factions gathered, their faces etched with worry and ambition. The air was thick with the sharp scent of pipe smoke and the metallic tang of aged clocks. A cracked timepiece sat ominously on the table, its erratic ticking slicing through the heated debate. "Control the flow of time," one faction leader hissed, "and you control Ethernal. You would gamble the city's fate for power." Another shot back, eyes blazing. The fragile order teetered on the edge of collapse, and political ambition threatened to shatter what remained. Elian knew that beyond repairing the clocks, he would have to navigate this treacherous web of alliances and deceit. The city's fate depended not only on gears and springs, but on the courage and wisdom of its people. As night deepened, Elian met Mira in a quiet courtyard, their faces drawn tight with exhaustion and resolve. "The city is breaking," Mira said, her voice barely a whisper. "We have to hold on to family, to hope." Together, they vowed to face the unraveling time, to fight the creeping chaos that threatened to consume everything. For in the heart of the broken city, beneath the ticking shadows, the battle for fate had only just begun. And as the cracked clock's pulse faltered once more, Elian whispered to the fading gears, "Hold fast. We're coming for you." The city held its breath, caught between the past and the future, waiting for the next tick to decide its destiny. The grand clock tower loomed above the city, its towering spires piercing the twilight sky like the hands of some colossal timepiece counting down to an unknown fate. Elian Marrow stood at its base, the familiar clatter of the bustling city fading into a distant murmur as he pushed open the heavy iron door that guarded the tower's secrets. The scent of aged wood and cold stone greeted him, mingling with the faint metallic tang of countless gears. Each tick and tock reverberating like a heartbeat in the depths of the edifice. Master Calder, his silver hair catching the last rays of the dying sun, followed silently behind, his eyes reflecting the weight of unspoken knowledge. "This place," Calder began, his voice low and steady, "holds the heart of our city's destiny. Few have ventured here, and fewer still have returned with understanding." Elian's fingers brushed the worn railing as they ascended a spiraling staircase, each step echoing through the cavernous shaft. Around them, hidden compartments and niches revealed fragments of intricate clockwork, some gleaming with polished brass, others corroded and fractured by time's relentless passage. The rhythmic ticking was everywhere, a hypnotic symphony that seemed to pulse with the very essence of fate. At last, they reached a heavy oak door, its surface etched with the sigils of ancient clockmakers, symbols of protection and power. Master Calder produced a small, ornate key from within his robes and turned it with a deliberate twist. The door groaned open, revealing a chamber bathed in the soft glow of flickering lanterns. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the scent of aged parchment. Shelves lined the walls, burdened with leather-bound tomes, yellowed manuscripts, and cryptic diagrams. Arcane instruments, an astrolabe, a celestial globe, and strange devices of unknown function stood scattered upon tables, their delicate forms casting intricate shadows. Elian approached cautiously, his sharp green eyes scanning the texts. One tome bound in cracked leather and embossed, with a faded emblem of intertwined gears, drew his attention. As he opened it, the fragile pages whispered secrets of the clocks. True power, how each timepiece was not merely a measure of hours and minutes, but a vessel containing the threads of human destiny. The curse, he read, was a fracture in the grand weave of fate. caused by a cataclysmic event centuries ago when a clockmaker's ambition tore open the delicate fabric of time itself. The chronomancer, once a guardian of the city's temporal order, had sought to control time to prevent personal tragedy, but instead unleashed a corruption that threatened to unravel reality. A sudden, cold breeze stirred the lantern flames, and Elian looked up to find Master Calder watching him intently. "This knowledge is dangerous," Calder warned, his voice carrying a somber weight. "The chronomancer's return is not mere legend. The shadows grow longer, and the city's balance hangs by a thread." Elian's heart tightened with a mixture of dread and resolve. "What must I do?" Calder's gaze softened, but his tone remained firm. "You must prepare. Understanding is the first step, but action awaits. The fate of the city depends on your courage and skill." As they left the chamber, the echo of their footsteps mingled with the persistent ticking of countless gears, a reminder that time was both ally and adversary. Emerging onto a high balcony, Elian gazed out over the city, its rooftops awash in the purple hues of dusk. The clocks on every spire and tower ticking in unison like a vast, living organism. Beneath the fading light, the cracks in the city's temporal fabric seemed to glow faintly, a silent warning of the battle to come. Elian clenched his fists, the weight of legacy and destiny settling firmly upon his shoulders. In that moment, he understood that the secrets beneath the clock tower were not merely knowledge to be learned, but a call to arms against the darkness threatening to consume them all. The night deepened, and with it, the city's heartbeat quickened, each tick a reminder that time, fragile and relentless, marched onward. Elian inhaled deeply, ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that to save his city, he must delve ever deeper into the mysteries of fate and confront the shadows that lurked within the heart of time itself. But as the first stars appeared, a whisper echoed faintly on the wind, an ominous sound, like the grinding of broken gears, signaling that the chronomancer's shadow was drawing near. The clock was ticking, and the battle for the city's soul was only just beginning.